Tabletop Gaming Guild. The Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences and memories that playing games with friends and families can create. On this episode, we will be talking about our top 10 games of all time. So, we'll start off with just talking about a little bit about why we put games on our list. Personally, when I was thinking about things on the list, I thought about games that, no matter what the situation was, if somebody asked me to play this game, would I immediately play this with them? If I was at home and the house was on fire, somebody asked me to play this game, I would go save these games first, put a tarp down in the driveway, and play them on the driveway with the person while the fire department deals with the fire. Hopefully the family gets out.
So, Dan, what went into your list?
Well, mine wasn't nearly as epic as that. I'll give you that. That's a beautiful mental image there, Nathan. I just sort of took an approach. I asked BCG what I had been playing the past year and a half, looked at my play counts, looked at my highest rated games, and basically worked out what should be on my list from there.
Yeah. For mine, I went a different route because for the highest plays that I have aren't necessarily my top 10 games. Actually, they're not. I have high play counts on a lot of games, and none of them are on my top 10. These are games that if I have a game night, any one of these 10 games is the games that I want to try to get to the table, that I have the most enjoyment from, that I get the most great memories from. So that is how I made my top 10 list. How about you, Peter?
So for me, it is a little bit of the same as James and Nathan, where any of these 10 games, I would be super excited to sit down and play it with my friends. Whether it's because it's a game that I really love to teach it, it's easy to teach, and then some of them they're the games that I learned on as I was like getting into the hobby, and there's still games that I learned on them, and I still love them, and I can teach them really well to somebody. So whether I want to get it to the table because I just really enjoy the gameplay, or I want to get it to the table because I want to get somebody else into games. So those are kind of the factors that played into it for me as I was choosing my top 10.
I thought it'd be something cool like you rolled 20-sided die.
I should have done that. Stop recording. Yeah, stop recording. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do that now.
Yeah, that's much more scientifically accurate. All right, so I think Nathan's going to start us off on his number 10.
Woo, number 10. So coming up with 10 games wasn't difficult. Actually, I came up with 15 that had to be on the list, and I culled it down to 10. Number 10 that survived the culling was Xia Legends of a Drift System. Now, Xia Legend of a Drift System is an epic space trading and exploration game where you are revealing parts of the map by flying around. You can take a risk by going into undiscovered areas without exploring first, and maybe you go into a black hole.
Yep, that would be what happens to me. I've yet to play this game. I think this game is one of the ones that will probably make it on my top 10 if I ever play it, just because of how much I like the theme and how awesome the game sounds. But yeah, good pick.
I feel like this is the first time I'm hearing about this game, so I'm gonna have to look into it.
What?
I don't remember Nathan mentioning it previously.
Have you not listened to the episodes that we talked about before you joined?
You know what? Probably not.
Oh.
All right. Well, my 10th game was Euphoria, Build a Better Utopia. I have mentioned this before on the channel. It is a worker placement game. It is Stonemaier Games, and in this game, your dice are your workers. The theme is reasonably strong with this one. The names of the markets that you can build are really quite cool to imagine in a dystopian universe, like the arena of non-violent conflict is a sports arena, and the Institute of Mandatory Equality is a school. But and then when you roll your workers, if you roll really high, your smartest worker runs away because they realize they're living in a dystopia. And otherwise, it's a really nice game involving like worker placement, resource management.
Well, no, I mean that game looks amazing. I just got it. I like the insert for it.
I have the retail edition, so I have no insert.
Oh, the insert's really cool. Do you have the upgraded goods in it, or is it just like there's wooden goods and stuff?
My copy has wooden pieces. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wooden pieces. Yeah, it's really looks really good. I read through the rule book on it, getting ready to play it. I think I'm going to force you guys into a playthrough of it.
No, I am totally up for this. This is we played this a lot, and it's got a lot of stuff going on in it.
Yeah, I think it's one of his first games he ever designed.
It was the second from that company, right? The first was Viticulture, right?
Yes, I'm super excited to play it. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm glad it's your number 10. So I'm interested to see what Peter's number 10 is, because this is the first time he's ever done a top 10 list for us.
So my top 10, number 10 of my top 10, I went with a probably one of the first games that got me into gaming. It's a classic, easy to sit down and to teach it. You're going to go ahead and shape the medieval landscape of France in Carcassonne. I today still love sitting down and playing this game with my friends. I play it online, I play it at the table. It's just a very simple game to play, and every time I like the I go for the long game on this. I always use go for the farmers and try to win the fields, and it's almost always a battle between me and the other people that we're playing as we try to one up each other in the farms, and I just absolutely love playing it. So Carcassonne is my number 10.
Yeah, it's a good solid pick. It's definitely a game that I think everyone should have in their collection. It's super easy to teach. It's doesn't have a very long play time. I do suggest, like, for new players that aren't used to board games so much, maybe not having the farmers in the first game.
Okay.
But the farmers are an amazing part of the game. It just it's harder for new players to calculate the farmer.
I know, that's the fun part. I teach them about the farmer by destroying them with the farmers.
Destroy them. I teach them by crushing their souls.
Absolutely.
I somehow made myself last on this list, even though that wasn't what was pre-planned. But you know what? Whatever. I got overexcited. I wanted to hear what Peter had. All right. So my number 10 is probably going to be the last year this is on my top 10. It barely made it. It's an excellent, awesome game. I play so many awesome games. I have a feeling that my next year's top 10 list is going to be completely different. So my number 10 is Descent, Journey in the Dark, 2nd edition. I still love playing this with my daughters. It has a little bit of an edge over Gloomhaven in some ways, although you'll see where I have Gloomhaven later on, just because it has the miniatures. So another really cool thing about the game, and one of the reasons I really like it, is painting the miniatures and then playing with those. And we have a tradition almost every year where we play Descent 2nd edition through New Year's. So it is a really fun sort of experience. So my number 10 is the Dungeon Crawler Descent, Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition.
I had this for you on your list, and I had predicted it would drop. I didn't predict it would drop to 10. I had predicted it would drop to 5.
Yeah, and I'm 99.999% positive it's not going to be on the list anymore after this year. From a couple of the games that I haven't had enough plays of.
Oh yeah, we're back to me.
Yeah, so Nathan's number 9.
So Dan mentioned a Stonemaier game, so I'm going to mention a Stonemaier game, and that is Scythe. Scythe is a Euro game imitating an Amerithrash. Basically, in Scythe, you have mechs, and you can do combat, but really that's not the heart of the game. The heart of the game is resource gathering and using your those resources to upgrade your abilities. And the nice thing about the game is your player boards and how that combines with your race abilities, where you can take an action. If you take the top action, you have a bottom action that's paired with it, which is randomized by which player board you get, but you can only take it if you have the resources for both. I mean, you can only take the bottom actions if you have the resources for that. And I really like that mechanic. But that's Scythe.
Awesome game. Yep. I think there's going to be a lot of Stonemaier games on this list.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I might have another. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. All right, Dan, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is another game that I have mentioned probably more than once on these parts, and that is Fortune and Glory, the Cliffhanger game. This giant coffin-sized game from Flying Frog Productions is Indiana Jones in a box. Do you want to play Indiana Jones in a box? This is Indiana Jones in a box. The game is quite random because you resolve tests with die rolls, and there are no less than, 15 decks of cards that you draw from throughout the course of the game. But it is one of the epic games in my collection, and if me or my brother suggest this as a possibility to play, it is probably getting to the table.
Another game I have not played yet that I need to.
How come I've suggested this a couple times and we've not got to play it? I've yet to play this game.
I am totally on board. I want to play this game too. Every single time he says Indiana Jones in a box, I'm like, why haven't we played this yet?
James, you got to schedule it.
All right, so Peter, what's your number 9?
All right, so as everyone can tell, we hate Stonemaier games, so I'm going to go ahead and throw mine in there as well. For me, number 9 is Wingspan. So let's get all our birds together. Got the free app that's out there. You can listen to all your bird calls as you're playing your cards, but Wingspan is just a card game where you're building your aviary, and you're going to collect all your birds, and you're going to hopefully produce way more eggs than all your friends, which I never do, and you're going to complete some fun challenges along the way where you're trying to collect a certain type of bird and gain all the points. This is a game that I think if I had been on a top 10 list earlier last year, this game would have been higher up, but I think because I've played it so much now, I've got other games that maybe I'm not as... Maybe, I don't know if jaded is the right word, but I really enjoy this game. It's just that I am less enthusiastic to get it to the table as I had been, because I've got other games that I want to play more, if that makes sense. But I still love Wingspan. I think it's a really fun game. I can't wait to eventually get the latest expansion. I have not gotten it yet, and I would love to get that to the board so that I can see the new mechanics that are thrown in. There's a new resource involved. There's new player boards that kind of, I think, probably get you into the gameplay a little bit quicker, where right now with the base game, I feel like it takes that first round, feels like you're kind of slowly getting yourself into the flow of things. It looks like the new one might get you into it a little bit quicker with needing to get the food to spend the resources. But yeah, so Wingspan, Elizabeth Hargrave and Stonemaier Games. Fantastic.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the European expansion, they did a really good job with it. They just added a little bit to it, and a few mechanics tweaks. I'm hoping Oceanus is much along the same line, and I expect it will be.
It is not. Oceanus adds new player boards, like you said, adds a new food type, changes the dice, and gives new player boards. It will be a slightly different game, and I think that it corrects some stuff that I didn't think was wrong with the game. So this next expansion is definitely a big, meaty expansion in that line. So my number 9 game is Scythe.
What?
I love Scythe.
What?
Crossover on the same number.
Crossover already?
Yes, same number. And I originally thought it was a mech combat game where you just fight each other to death with mechs. It's not, but I still love it. And it's one of the first games that I've almost completely painted all the miniatures. I have 3 miniatures left. However, with Imperial Assault, I have 5 miniatures yet left. So we'll see which one wins. But Scythe, awesome game. Everything Nathan said's right. Love it. That's my number 9. Scythe.
I'm 2 for 2 for my predictions, but numbers I'm not getting right. I had this for 7 for you.
Okay. What is your number 8?
So, my number 8 is the only legacy game I have on this list. Now, I have been playing Season 0 lately, but that's not the one that's getting on the list. I waver between 1 and 2, and so my pick was Pendant Legacy Season 2. Now, I know a lot of people prefer 1 over 2. I prefer 2, largely because I like the exploration element. In Pandemic Legacy, if you ever play base Pandemic, you're just basically trying to cure a disease and try to hold off the influx of the spread of this disease. And it adds a legacy element where the game is actually changing with each season. And, if you fail, everything gets worse. And if you do well, things still get worse, but not as quickly. But yeah, I like the fact that, each game is going to be different. However, yes, there is a limitation of you can only play 12 to 24 times, which is still a lot of plays, though.
So I'm wondering, you said this is the only legacy game you have on your list.
Yes, for the top 10.
All right, we'll see if that's true. All right, I might call shenanigans. We'll see. So what's Dan's number 8?
All right, gentlemen, my number 8 is another crossover. I am going to mention Shia, Legends of the Dwarf System, as my number 8.
Everybody loves my choices. Woo!
So yeah, this is the other, in addition to Fortune and Glory, this is the other game that if either me or my brother suggest, it will most definitely get to the table. Like, if we both think we have enough time to sink into this, we're going to play it. Because it's a great experience game. It's like Privateer in space in a box. You can go anywhere and do almost anything as long as you're, trying to eke out a little bit more points and or money. And there's multiple paths to get those points, and you can shift gears relatively easily to take advantage of the best opportunities that are available to you at a given time. And it's just like a great sandbox.
Yep, I agree. I have not played it, and I need to. All right, so what is Peter's number 8?
All right, so my number 8, I've only been able to play this a few times, but I can't wait to play it again eventually, and I will never be able to probably get it to the table unless I get together with Dan, and that is Glory to Rome.
Yes!
So, this game, I think for me, one of the reasons it makes my top 10 is it introduced some mechanics that I had never run into before in games until recently. That was the cards that can be multiple different things, and trying to remember that and to decide how best to use the cards to do the things I need to do. So you're going to be building card combos and you're trying to rebuild Rome. And the other thing that I think was so much fun with this is that you can build buildings that completely break this game, and everybody is trying to break the game first and in very fun different ways. And so the few times that I have played it were a lot of fun. This was, again, I learned it as I played it that first time, and by the time the game finished, I was like, it finally clicked, and I was like, I've got it, and I wanted to go back and play it again. I don't know if this is one that would get old for me very quickly if I got to play it a bunch, because again, there's just a lot of stuff happening, but since I've only played it a few times, I don't know that for sure. So right now, this I think it makes it a little further down my list than some of the other games, just because it just has that added effect that I've not played it a ton yet. And so I still am salivating at the chance to play it again, because I think there's just a lot there to be had. So Glory to Rome. Good luck finding it in person. If you got Tabletop Simulator, though, go play this game. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm not going to object.
I had considered this one, but I've only played it once, so I actually have not rated it yet. So, and also I only played it on Tabletop Simulator, so that I tend not to include anything that I've only played digital versions of. If I can ever play the physical version, this could potentially be my top 10.
I can't limit mine to not include Tabletop Simulator or digital games, because that is freaking all I have been able to play this last year as I've gotten into playing games. So
my number 8 game is Rising Sun, which didn't make my list last year at all. When I first purchased it, I noticed that there's a lot to choose from in the game. So you end up purchasing the different cards and powers, and you can have like 15, 16 different powers by the end of the game. So it's really hard to keep track of what everyone has and what everyone can do. But I found that there's some apps and stuff that help out with that, so you can just mark off what people do and you can quickly see what they have. And it is an area control game where that area control style is in the same vein as Blood Rage, where the highest power wins in the area. But the unique twist on this game is that you join with two people in a tea ceremony each round. So you actually have a partner that you can betray during that round, before you betray them, if you do, you actually get an additional benefit every time they pick an action. And one of the things I really like about this one is when you pick actions, it's like Puerto Rico style, or Eminent Domain, where you have a main action that you get when you select it, and everyone gets the lesser action. However, your partner gets the main action also. And there's a lot of strategy into who you want to partner with, because you don't necessarily want to if you're in first, you don't necessarily want to partner with the second place person and stuff like that. So there's a lot of strategy in this game. There's more strategy in Rising Sun than there is in Blood Rage. However, in Blood Rage, it's just simply a lot of fun blowing people up. So Rising Sun has made it to number 8. It might eke up a little bit more. I like the expansion, Luck Gods, that add in some more stuff to it. But yeah, that's Rising Sun. All right, so what's Nathan's number 7?
My number 7 is the first big surprise on my list. Now, I have been playing a lot of lighter games because I've been playing a lot of games with people who don't normally play board games, so that might be part of the reason why this jumped up onto my list. And that's Downforce. So, Downforce is a racing game, in theory, but it's more of a gambling game. So you are racing cars, but you can also bet on cars other than your own. So if your car wins, yeah, you get a certain amount of money, but you could potentially get more money by betting on somebody else's car and pushing them to win. Because when you play cards to move cars, you not only have to move your car, but everyone's card that's on that card. And I also like the fact that in this game, you start out with your complete hand. Every card that you're going to have for the entire game is in your hand, so you know everything you can do, and you're trying to get rid of the cards that you don't want to play that help other people more than you, and cause traffic jams, so you can kind of make them waste a lot of their movements.
This was a really good game. I really enjoyed our playthrough of it, and I'm looking forward to getting to play it again at some point. I'm with you, Nathan. I liked the fact that you had all your cards right there, and it was just, if you could just think strategically enough, you could pull it off. I did not. But it was a good game.
Until Dan takes your car and makes it go along the outer edge.
I mean, I was there, and I did win that game by a few $1 million, so I'm not going to complain.
That's why I mentioned that, which we did a playthrough, so watch it.
All right, my number 7 is Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is a game from AEG, and in this game, you are druids trying to restore the land. The game's got a really cool card crafting mechanism where the cards in this game are these giant, like, tarot-sized cards, and you use special sleeves to put improvements into these tarot cards so they can have top, middles, and bottoms. So, like, you build your own combos, not only between cards, but on individual cards as well. So it's a deck building game as well. And it is quite solid and actually one of my brother's favorites, which is why we played it a bunch and why it's sitting here at number 7.
Well, I'm going to say your list has already changed a lot. So it'll be interesting talking about that in the future.
All right. So this is Peter and my number 7. Everybody get your crew together, get a job. Keep shiny, because we're gonna Firefly the Game, okay? I love Firefly. I will watch that show again and again, and I will watch the movie. And when I found out that there was a board game that I could pretend that I was one of the crew, and I even got a little miniature of the ships. I love the miniatures in this game. I was sold, and I've played this game more than a handful of times at this point, and it's not the heaviest of games when it comes down to strategy, but for me, it's just getting lost in the verse, the theme of the game. As everybody knows, if you listen to the podcast, I am a thematic gamer most of the time, and so when you drop me into a universe that I love as much as this one, and you let me just play as a crew going around and fulfilling my jobs, and then I get to control the Reavers and drop them into my enemy's territory and make them deal with those barbarians, then I'm going to jump at this. And this is a Gale Force 9 game, which it will not be the last Gale Force 9 game on my top 10 list. So that was Firefly the Game.
Definitely was a contender. To clarify, there are quite a few Firefly games, so this is the one specifically called Firefly the Game.
The Game, exactly. Yep.
Not the best title, but it works.
It's the one that takes over a kitchen table.
Absolutely, especially if you get the expansions or the bigger boards. And I've got a friend who has bought like every single extra thing for this game, and it just takes over multiple tables.
Yeah, you need a big kitchen table with the expansions.
Yep. So mine is a crossover with Peter so far. And that is, my number 7 is Wingspan.
Woo, Wingspan.
Awesome Stonemaier game, designed by Elizabeth Hargrave. I love the sort of like way that you can combo the birds together and trying to get the different goals in the game. It's just a really, really good game. Wingspan, solidly designed. I actually think that Wingspan for the new generation will be their Catan, because Catan at this point is pretty old and is getting into having stale mechanics, where Wingspan is super easy to teach. It is selling so many copies, and so many people are coming into the hobby with Wingspan now. So I think we're going to see that the newer generation is going to find as Wingspan as their starting point. And they'll be talking about that as the entry-level game.
Absolutely. I'm totally agreeing with you on this. I think you're right that there's going to be a lot of people who, like me, see some of games like Carcassonne or whatever as their starting game. This is going to be a starting game for a ton of people.
Yes.
Yep, and Settlers of Catan actually is starting to get more and more detractors that are just consider it old now, and So yeah, that kind of is bringing that down a little bit. And Wingspan is just flying. No, not intended as pun, but a really bad pun. But I had predicted this at your number 8, so I was close on this one.
Yeah, you're pretty close. You're pretty close. So, what is your number 6?
Well, this one may be a surprise. It maybe not so much as Downforce, but it's another light game that normally I would not consider.
If you say Boulder Dash, I swear to God.
No, I'm not saying Boulder Dash. This is a new game for me. I only got this in December, and it's The Crew. So, The Crew is a cooperative trick-taking game where you basically have to manage the cards to make sure certain tricks go to certain people. It's a very simple mechanically game. It's mechanically a very simple game, but it's exciting. It's interesting. It has a campaign structure which gives you a little different scenarios each time that are really interesting. Add a lot of excitement. It's also one of those games that you're not allowed to talk, which I know James generally hates, but I think he'll still like this game. It does give you one method of communication, which is basically you have a little token you can put on your card, tell players, oh, this is the highest card I have this in suit, or only card of the suit, or lowest. But that is the rules for The Crew.
You mean a game where James can't talk? I'm sold.
Hey!
So we also did a playthrough of this, and I want to say that off of that one playthrough, I feel like this game is 100% solid, if not better. Unlike Pete with Glory to Rome, I want to play this game like lots more.
Also, I got this in December. I think I've played this 70 times already. 60 or 70 at least.
Now, I'm not going to undersell The Crew because I have it over there. Go and play it. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I do think that it won't be on your list next year because it's that type of game. I think you're going to enjoy it. You're going to play it a lot. And then I'm thinking it'll get replaced. Not to undersell The Crew at all.
No, I think it'll be on next year because I can do the campaign again. But it will probably gradually over the next couple years drop off.
Okay. And to be clear though, that's not like saying it's a bad game in any way. In fact, for the money, you've already like crushed it.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you never play it again, it was well worth the money.
Oh, and bear in mind, these top 10s are really high on my list. I could easily, I was looking, and I could easily make a top 100 and still just barely get into my 8 out of 10 rankings. Those are still really good games, bordering on great.
Yeah, that's why I'm leaning towards potentially it not being on your list next year, just because of how much competition.
Well, I don't have a collection 100 creams deep, so my pick for number 6 was actually also a small box game. This is the game called Grifters, which I think I've mentioned here before. This is a card game. You are like a mobster type organization in the middle of a revolutionary war in the dystopian universe, the same universe as like Coup and whatnot. And you're trying to just get out of the situation with as much money as possible. So you have a hand of recruit cards, which you can play to manipulate the cards on your player board and or take money from the center and or other players, or you can play a bunch of recruits at once to complete jobs that give you big, like, swingy bonuses. And the jobs also are color-coded, and you score points based on, like, how many jobs of the same color you score at the end. And the game is really solid, and I really enjoy, like, the card play mechanisms, like the specific powers that those cards have tend to feel strong, and they feel it just feels rewarding to play the cards out, to rotate them across your board, and to see your plans come to fruition.
Another game I have to play. You have a lot of games on your list that I really want to play and never have.
I can't help that I like all the good games, James. I am not going to argue the fact that I like all the good games. Yeah.
Well, it's just that he's played most of the ones on my list. We try to play a lot of games together, so I think I have the better list. It's just he's played them.
We'll see. So what's Peter's?
So my next game is another game that I've only been able to play once or twice, but I really enjoyed playing it and want to get it to the table again, and that is Concordia. So I absolutely loved the couple of playthroughs of this game that I had. It is going to be you're going to do some drafting of cards, and then you're going to do some deck building as you get newer cards and powers into your hand that you're going to play. This one is just it's another one that I think it's different because there's not a whole lot of gotcha in this game, which is something that I usually enjoy, but the level of strategy that it involved as to when I wanted to play a card to do a thing, or if I wanted to kind of hold off because there's the chance that you can duplicate somebody else's play as well if you still got a card in your hand. So just learning that, it was kind of a very whole new style of game for me at the time that I was learning it, and it's just, as I look back on it, it's one that I really enjoyed the play and I want to play it again. But again, for those who've not played it, you're building up kind of a dynasty around the Mediterranean, and you're moving along and gaining resources so that as you play your cards, you're going to be getting points. It's a lot of fun, and I keep seeing it at the store, the physical copy of it at Dan's store, and I keep thinking I'm going to pick it up, and I haven't yet, only because there's probably no chance that I'm going to get my wife to play this game with me, and so I just haven't picked it up yet. But I would love to own it and to get a group together and play it. So
I will say it makes a fine 2-player game, but yeah, if you can't get your wife to play it.
We'll see. Maybe someday. Maybe I'll be able to convince her.
Now, I'll also say you can be mean in this game, but I do like the fact that you don't know what your score necessarily is, or another opponent's score, because of the way the cards are. You're scoring and they're hidden most of the time. You only have so many. So I do like that a lot. And sometimes it makes my brain want to explode trying to figure out what people have to circumvent their score. Or not circumvent, to tank their score. But it's an awesome game. It's perpetually my number 11.
Yeah, this is one of those games, if we're making the most deeply satisfying games of all time, this would definitely be near the top of the list for me. It doesn't have the punch of some of these, Euro Amerithrash games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as flashy or showy, but it's really, really a solid game.
I'm with you. I liked your wording. It's very satisfying.
All right, so to outdo everyone else, because this will.
Lies.
No, it will. And I'm just looking at the images on this, and they have blood 6-sided dice with that look like they have blood on it. I have to get it for this game. So try to imagine it's the apocalypse. All your friends and family have been eaten. You've been having a rough summer into fall, and now you have to survive the winter. And I'm talking about one of the greatest games ever made. My number 6, Dead of Winter. The base game can play up to 2 to 5 players, but you can get an expansion that can get you to play up to 12. It's insane. I don't know if you want to do that, but it's there. So in Dead of Winter, basically you're semi-cooperatively, trying to survive different scenarios. You can have a traitor in the game. However, the unique mechanism of this game is going to be everyone has a different win condition. And even when you're working together, your win condition is different. So you may seem like a traitor in the game, but you're just trying to make your win condition. So it makes it harder to find the traitor. Also, the traitor's not going to jump out and tank the colony in the beginning because they can get exiled. It's very difficult to win from being exiled. This game has some of the greatest player interaction sort of stories that I've ever had from any game. It has weird stuff that happens where people will lose just because they're not the traitor. They will not get their goal and sacrifice themselves for some unknown reason.
Unless your name is James. You will never do this. If your name is James, you will just win because you're the traitor and you're terrible.
That's true too. But yeah, people will just sacrifice themselves to win, and it's not in the game. You're not supposed to sacrifice yourself. You're supposed to try to win. It's really cool. I like it a lot. Like I said, this has generated more stories than any other game I've ever played. Awesome game. It's an awesome experience. Highly recommend it. Dead of Winter.
I can see this game if I get the chance to play it more, and I'm no longer putting games on my list that are just these are easy to teach games, or these are kind of classic games that have nostalgia for. I can very easily see this game making my top 10.
Yeah, and we've played. I I played it with a lot of non-gamers, and it's not hard to teach and get them into. So it has that for it too.
It's got a lot of good thematic connections. Yeah, it might be one of the few games ever to get the semi-co-op mental space right.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Just because it doesn't, like in all the other games, if you're a trader, you're a trader, and everyone else is good. They're good. They have one goal. I really like everyone has a different goal. I like that. Unlike Shadows over Camelot, may you never be opened out of my collection again.
Wow, that's pretty extreme.
Well, it's a good introductory co-op game, but I'm almost to the point where I don't know that it's a good game currently.
Yeah,
I don't know that it aged well. Other games do it better.
Yeah, if I wanted to introduce
thing.
people to co-op, I'd probably go to basic Pandemic.
Pandemic is, I think, one of the ones that killed it too. Pandemic is the perfect introductory co-op game with no trader.
Forbidden Island for me.
No, that is a horrible
Nope.
game.
I disagree with you.
Horrible
No,
game.
if you're just looking,
Your opinion is
if
good.
you're gonna teach a co-op game, it's a very, very easy game to teach for co-op. It is.
That is a low-hanging piece of fruit, yeah.
No.
Yep.
Children
You
can
get all
play
sorts
Pandemic. It teaches them about diseases. Stuff. And dying.
Moving right along.
Yeah, getting away from the children.
All right, anyway.
What number were we on? 5.
Peter
You're
has now
5.
quit the podcast as everybody has called him a children's game lover. Okay, this is the way it is.
All right, Nathan, what is your number 5?
So I won't talk too much about my number 5 because 2 other people have already talked about it. And that's Wingspan. I believe it was Peter and Dan that talked about it so far.
No, that was me and James.
Oh,
yep.
So Dan, he's the holdout. Let's see if it shows up later in his list. So that's Wingspan.
All right, my number 5 is The Quacks of Quedlinburg. I took an adventure. I tried a bag building game, and I absolutely loved it. Played this a lot. In this game, you're an alchemist, and you're participating in this fair that's like 7 or 9 days long, each day representing a round. And each day you buy ingredients to add to your potion, and you're pulling these ingredients are chits that you put into a bag that you pull out blindly, and it's a really good push your luck mechanism where you're trying to get the most points to buy new ingredients, but also not explode. And then it's got a really good catch-up mechanism with the rat tails, which makes people want to explode under certain circumstances. It's well put together. There's multiple books representing different ingredients in the game, so there's a lot of like game variants to explore. It's great.
Yeah, this was one of the ones that is in my top 20. Very, very good.
I definitely thought about it as well. It's a really good game.
Just just missed it because of the some games, when you play a lot of them, some games are just, when you don't pull it from the bag, and it's just, yeah. All right, so Peter, what's your number 5?
Number 5 for me. It's time to get a little crazy. Again, me and my thematic games. Let's jump into a Mansion of Madness, everybody. 2nd edition. I absolutely love, as I've said before, I love thematic games. I love cooperative games. And this was probably, I think, the first game that I was introduced to that was app-driven. And the app for this game is really, really well done. I loved how well it showed me which board pieces I was going to need to lay down on the table. I liked the interaction with it and the clues. And I loved the combat system. I was, again, first time being introduced to an app-driven game, and I felt like the combat, the way that it was laid out in the app is really easy to figure out and to play through. And it makes it a very good game to play by myself if I have to. I'd much rather be playing it with a bunch of friends, but I found this to be a very fun game to even play on my own. So Mansions of Madness, you've got your Call of Cthulhu realm, your Cthulhu-esque stuff going on. And each time I have played it, I've played the exact same scenario. Each time it ended differently. I've lost, I think, twice. I've won once, and even when I won, I burnt the mansion to the ground as well. So, a lot of fun, a really good game, definitely one that I would recommend for people. Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
I'm sorry, Peter, but I think you're the only one that's going to have this on your list.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I will say that great pick. You have great taste. I will. You just redeemed yourself.
It's okay because my previous statement still stands.
Oh!
It's crazy. It's crazy, James. But some people can like Forbidden Island and Mansions of Madness. It's crazy. crazy. I know.
No. All right. And I will say it is one of the best solo games ever.
It's so good.
It's so good. I mean, I don't even know that. I think it's completely underrated as a solo game too.
And I think honestly it might be because of the time. It's a long game, and a lot of people who are playing solo games might not want to play a 2 hour to 3 hour to 4 hour solo game. But if you
people solo Gloomhaven.
Well, some people do.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. Everything with that. Good. So my number 5 is Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars is a stronghold game. It's where you're basically, obviously, terraforming Mars. But the crux of the game is it's actually a card-driven game where you're trying to spend and place different projects and different cards out to help terraform Mars, but you're just basically trying to create an engine throughout the game and get as many points as possible. So through either using different effects on the cards and getting like the most animals on them, or having innate victory points on them, or raise your terraforming rating, or terraform the board. I just love Terraforming Mars. My oldest daughter, it's her favorite game. We play it constantly. I will say over time, there's only one expansion that I think is required for Terraforming Mars, and all the other ones can be skipped. And I believe that is Prelude. Prelude is the only expansion needed for Terraforming Mars. It shortens the playtime and it boosts the beginning of the game. It's really well done. It improves the game. All the other ones make the game more fiddly. So that's my caveat. Terraforming Mars, awesome game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of the other expansions, they're not bad, but I wouldn't. Most of the time, I'll play with just the base game and Prelude. Colonies, I might throw in occasionally, but Terminal probably never.
I enjoyed my playthrough of this game, but it's not one of the games that has like been on my brain constantly about wanting to get to play it again. Like I think I need to play it some more, and through some extra playing, it might win me over. But it's definitely a good game. I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I want to play it one of these times. I'll play it with the optional rules. There's you don't have, based on the rules that you have, you don't actually have to take away or add certain rules. So we play with not having to pay for your first cards, which makes a big difference. But anyway, what is Nathan's number 4?
So my number 4 I have talked about before. Not surprising. My number 4 is Mex versus Minions. This is another game. It's a relatively heavy game. It, adds it a little bit at a time. This is another game where I've actually taken it and played it with players who've never played board games before, and it's actually gone really well. For a game this size, it's actually very easy to teach. You do have to teach the program movement, which can be a little bit tricky to teach, but once you teach that, the rest kind of explains itself. And it has a nice ramp up where when you start out, you don't have much of a program. You're going to be adding cards that you can do each turn, and by the end of a scenario, you are killing dozens of these little goblins every turn, and it's really satisfying just wiping the map.
It's also literally a heavy game.
Very much so. It was one of the first really big heavy games to start the trend.
Yeah, and the production quality on that game is insanely good.
Yes.
See, that's a game that I need to get to, because I've tried a couple of program movement games and wasn't thoroughly impressed by any of them. So I gotta at least give that one a try.
Yeah, I don't like program movement games so much, but I love Mex versus Minions, because even when you're damaged beyond all get out, you're still flailing around killing everything. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a cooperative game, so it avoids the common complaint of program movement where somebody does something that completely screws up your entire turn. If something messes, you get damaged, it's going to affect your turn, but you're still doing something generally. Unless you do something really bad, but then it's okay, it's still kind of fun. You're not pulling your weight, but you can kind of watch the other people and kind of get excited. It's okay, I just need to do this to fix my program.
Getting back to it, I'm going to go back to the world of H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu, folks. So my number 4 is actually going to be Arkham Horror, the 3rd edition. This is a great thematic game. The base game comes with 4 different scenarios. Each scenario features a unique elder god. The way the quest cards work in this game is pure brilliance, where there are these cards that tell you what you need to do in the certain circumstances, and if certain circumstances change, then you like remove the cards and add new ones or flip them over, and that means evil has advanced, or maybe the good guys have advanced. And if evil advances too much, maybe a big bad shows up. It is also has all the solid elements of a good co-op game, where you have to spend time putting out the fires that the game puts in front of you, like monsters and doom tokens, but also find the time to advance your end game condition, which is mostly focused on finding clues and researching them so that you have them as a resource.
Another game I have to play.
I just recently was able to play, but I'm pretty sure I played the 2nd edition, not the 3rd edition.
Yeah, the 3rd edition is much more streamlined.
Okay.
So what's your number 4, Peter?
All right, so number 4 for me is going to be what I consider to be the quintessential worker placement game, Lords of Waterdeep. This is probably one of my most played games of all time at this point. It's a very simple game to teach. It's got some, what I think to be some fun expansions, which really level up the game rather well, especially Skullport. The Skulls of Skullport it's a fantastic addition to the game, where you're having to get some extra resources, but always with the caveat of you're taking some negative points, and they can accumulate and become worse throughout the game depending on how many skulls have been taken. But yeah, so worker placement, it's fantastic. I love the you buy more rooms to add more places for people to go, and it just always seems like you should, if you can, again, another one where if you can just figure out the right strategy, you're gonna be able to win. But somebody always takes the space you want to go to, and it's frustrating and fun. And so every time this one gets to the table, or I play the digital version, which the digital version is incredibly well produced and not too hard to figure out how to do it with multiple players, but it's really, really well done. And it's got the added benefit of being a Dungeons and Dragons themed game, though again it's in the names of things and the names of places. It's not in the actual mechanics of the game that it's in at all Dungeons and Dragons, but a lot of fun. And this is one that I would easily put on the table and teach somebody. And again, like a lot of the games on here, not real hard to teach, but a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, it's always good. When the expansion is so good.
Yeah.
You don't want to play without it.
Yeah, and absolutely. The Skulls of Skullport, at this point, I really, I'd rather not play Lords of Waterdeep without it. I mean, I still will, but the level of strategy that all of a sudden comes in, and again, I have the same problem as always, is I keep wanting to go back to the place where the skulls are, and I know it's going to hurt me, but I do it anyways. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the other thing too is if you're in trouble, it gives you an out too. I'll take some corruption just to get the resources I need.
Yep, and I always like it when you get the ability to place skulls on other places, because that's where your competitors want to go, and so you're just going to place it there just to needle them a little bit. So it's a really, really well designed, thought out game. Not super heavy on it's not super heavy strategy, but for me it's like just the right amount for what I consider to be kind of a almost an easy game. But it's still very satisfying every time I play it.
Yeah, I think I've taught Lords of Waterdeep to multiple people who've never played games. And although it's a little bit more complicated to really get it down, it is teachable. I still think for people that haven't played games before, it actually takes a couple times.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a couple plays to get good at it, but to learn it's not that. Yeah. Absolutely.
You could do it in one, yeah. Which is a great bonus on that game. So, my number 4 is designed by the greatest designer on the face of the planet, Eric M. Lang. So, you're going to be some Vikings. It's the end of the world, and you're trying to secure your place in Valhalla. You're going to fight over a board, and you're going to recruit monsters, and you're going to murder and kill each other, and you're going to try to get as much glory as you can by the end of the game. It is a fast-paced drafting game. One of my favorite games. The digital version of this game had a couple bugs in the beginning, but it's amazing now. I love it. We need to do another playthrough. Now that Dan finally got it, we stopped playing the digital one as planned, but we'll get him in there. It is an awesome game. I love Blood Rage. It's been on my list since I've had Blood Rage. I don't think it's coming off anytime soon, except for maybe when Blood Rage 2 comes out this year. We'll see. Who knows? But, yes, my number 4, Blood Rage.
Yeah, I figured the digital version of this it's got your player counts up. So I figured it had pushed it up because I know it was dropping a little bit from year to year. So I still have not got the exact position yet on any of my predictions, but I got 5 out of my 6 predictions for you.
Yeah, I think one only snuck in there that was the Rising Sun.
Rising Sun caught me.
Yeah.
Because I know that
it came out of left field for me because I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it dropped off your list completely before, and surprised it came back on.
I was going to say, this is the real deal, gentlemen. Top 3. Here we go.
Yeah, this is the top 3, final 3. So what is Nathan's number 3?
My number 3 has been mentioned by James, and that's Terraforming Mars. So, I mean, for a Euro game, this is phenomenal. I mean, you're managing the environment, you are playing cards. Like, you can almost focus entirely on the cards. It's just such cool card building. It can be a little bit of a solo focus where you can kind of ignore other people quite a bit, but I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, I love the card play. Now, there is a slight take that element, but it's almost completely ignored most games. But yeah, this is a phenomenal game. Yeah, and again, get Prelude. You can consider the other expansions, but really just get Prelude for sure.
Yep, completely agree.
All right, folks. Here goes nothing. My number 3 is a 3-way crossover. It has been mentioned by 2 other people already. It is Terraforming Mars, actually.
This is the second one we tied on the same number, too.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We've got some kind of psychic connection. Hopefully not, because I do not want to be in your head. I don't think there's too much I can add to what has already been said about Terraform. I like it because it's card-based, it's engine building. You really have a lot of choices in the game about what to do and how to get your points, and it's always a great journey to get end of the game and see what you built, even if you haven't won that particular run.
Yeah, definitely an awesome game. It is number 4 in the world according to BGG. So it's the 4th greatest game in the world according to BGG.
Lies.
So what is Peter's number 3?
All right, so number 3 for me it's my only legacy game going on this list. But I think it needs to go on here because, again, I like the cooperative game. So my number 3 game is my only legacy game that's going on here, and that is Betrayal Legacy. I absolutely love Betrayal. It has tons of issues. I don't care. This game has been close to my heart for many, many years, and that is because I love playing Betrayal with the same group of people and just going through the different stories and the different missions. And when I found out that they were creating a legacy version of this game, my mind was blown, and I was hoping it was going to be as good as I thought it could be. And besides probably one thing that I didn't love about it, everything else I thought was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed getting to play it again and again as things changed ever so slightly. I liked the story that was being told behind it, and if you get a group of people who like to role play even just a teeny bit, you don't have to do much, but if just a little bit, it can add to the story of this legacy game tremendously. And so you're going to be playing the game at least 14 times to get through the full campaign. And if you can, get 4 or 5 people together and play with those same people throughout the whole campaign. And I think it's going to have one of the cooler stories come from it. And I think you'll be talking about it with those people probably for a good while afterwards. And I luckily got this one in just a little bit before the pandemic happened. And so I was glad to have played through the whole thing without too much time in between sessions. But Betrayal Legacy, if you like Betrayal at all, I think this is probably the pinnacle of this game specifically. I don't know if they'll come out with any other versions of it at some point. I thought that their D&D Betrayal at Baldur's Gate was a really good kind of another version of it, but Betrayal Legacy took what I loved about Betrayal itself and made it so much better by giving it a campaign and a story arc. And it's one that I would highly recommend for anybody who likes thematic games and good stories.
Yeah, I would say this is the only legacy game that I haven't played yet. It's on my desk. Of course, only legacy game that matters that I haven't played yet. It's on my shelf to play. I am not counting Machikuro Legacy. I have no interest in playing that.
I can't wait the chance that you finally get to play it. I only wish you lived closer so I could play it with you, because I would totally play this game again without spoiling anything for anybody, just because I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely another game I want to play. So my number 3 is the number 5 game in the world, according to BGG, which is perfect, and everyone is always right, except for when it's not, because it should be number 3. And that is Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. I love this game. I barely ever get to play it, but when I do, it is amazing. I love this game. I love everything about it. It is the space soap opera in a box. That's the best way to explain it. It is basically you're going to play as a race in the game, and you're going to have to win through diplomacy, backstabbery, and just plain viciousness sometimes. It is the perfect 4X game. It takes a good 8 hours to play, which is a good length of time for an epic game. It takes up a giant amount of space on a table. I'm not selling this really well, but it's an amazing game. It is amazing, especially if you get that rare group together and they pre-read the roles together and they actually play like their faction. It is amazing. Even when they don't, it's still amazing. But I've had a couple games like that, and it was just phenomenal. My number 3, Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition.
Oh,
what happened there?
I've only played it once. Yeah, I've only played it once, but Twilight Imperium 4th Edition was epic and fun. And I again, sometimes you think, there's no way I can enjoy sitting down and playing the same game for 6, 7, 8 hours. No, this one was good.
Yeah, it's amazing and how fast the night goes too with it. I've played a 12-hour game of it, and you're like, it's 2 a.m? What happened? Twilight Imperium 4th Edition is awesome. It adds a whole bunch of extra races that you would have to have expansions for in 3rd Edition. However, I will say that if you can get Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition for cheap, you might as well, because you'll get the same great experience from it. I would only actually suggest, if you could get the 3rd Edition for cheap and the Twilight Imperium 4th Edition's here, you only get Twilight in 4th Edition if you're crazy like me. 3rd Edition is generally good enough. So I will throw that out there. There's not a whole lot of difference, but there's enough that it makes me really happy to own Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. All right, so we are down to the last 2. So what does Nathan think is the greatest number 2 game ever?
Well, this one...
For him.
This one is a really phenomenal game. I was really wanted to put it on number 1 again, but I just have not got it to the table. Although I've been playing the digital version. I've been enjoying the digital version, but it's not really the same thing. I really want to get the physical game back to the table for Gloomhaven. So Gloomhaven is a really meaty dungeon crawl that is a little bit complicated to kind of get your head around the rules the first time you play it. But once you start playing it, everything makes sense. There's no point where you ask yourself, oh, why are we doing it that way? No, if you run into a scenario, okay, what makes sense thematically, that's probably the rule. And that's why I really love Gloomhaven.
Now, I will do this argument right now. What is your argument that Gloomhaven is not a legacy game? Because you do modify the board, you write on the board, you write on cards, and you rip up cards. You're supposed to.
Yeah, but it's such a minor element to the game.
Ripping a card is minor. I can't do it. I put them in a bag that says trash that I maintain lovingly inside the board game permanently.
Rip it up and throw it away.
I can't. It'll give me a heart attack. I'll die. I will die. I will literally die. I cannot survive that.
I for one, support Nathan's classification of that this is not a legacy game. I think it's a campaign style game.
You can't go back to dungeons. You're not supposed to.
Yes, you can.
So how's it not legacy?
You're allowed to go back to dungeons you went to before.
Some of them you can't. Well, I don't know how far you are.
Well, that's true. Some of them...
There's permanency in the game. As you go through, you can't replay a character that retired either.
Right, but you could restart the game with new characters, new players, and...
Not unless you do it. Not unless you buy a different board. The stickers are separate by a different company.
Yes, you can get the removable stickers, which I got them, but I don't know if I'll ever need to remove them because there's so much gameplay in this game.
I didn't get the stickers. We were just writing all over the board and stuff because like, screw it, we're not going to make it through 100 games.
Right.
Plus, I got the expansion, which gives like another 15. And by that time, I'll be done playing it. At 115 games, I'll be ready for Frosthaven.
But I guess that's the big part of the argument for it not being legacy is if you get the sticker sets, and if you do, like I do and you do, where you keep all the trash stuff in a trash bag, you can fully reset this game.
Yeah, but that's not the spirit of the game as written. You could do the same thing with Betrayal House on the Hill. Really, really want to be crazy. Or Pandemic. You could do the same thing with Pandemic.
It'd be pretty hard to do.
But you can. So by saying that you can doesn't mean that it isn't. Is basically where I'm getting at.
But it's a part of, written as part of the game where, well, an optional part of the game for you to do. Whereas Pandemic Legacy, you'd have to go out of your way to figure out how to do it. There's nothing written to do that.
I will also say that BGG listens to the Legacy game, and they're always right.
Lies.
Win for me. I don't care. I'm gonna edit everything else out.
All right. My number 2 has already been mentioned by another member of the panel. My number 2 is Concordia.
Yay! Somebody likes the game I like.
Yeah, except I like it a way better. No, just kidding. Concordia, it's resource trading in the Mediterranean. It should not be fun given that theme or that like bucket of mechanisms, but it is. It's like sublimely elegant.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with it that helps out is you're not converting currency in the game. It is just basically things getting converted.
I mean, what do you call it? One of the major loops of the game is you get to a point where you have resources and money, so you can build houses, and then suddenly you have neither.
Oh, but you're not changing. What I mean is you're not changing the currency for goods.
I mean, with the merchant action, you can buy goods. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the merchant action, you can buy and sell goods.
It just doesn't feel like a trading game in the Mediterranean to me.
There's no production chain. It's not like you have to get clay to turn into brick, to turn into...
Well, in a way you can too, because you can convert those into different resources by trading them into money, and then the money into things.
Yeah, there's only 5 or 6 resources in the game, and there's a good interplay on the board with how you interact with other players in provinces and decent scoring opportunities across multiple different categories. As long as you're both building houses and buying cards, you're going to do well, but there's a little bit of variability there.
I just think it's so streamlined.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're bogged down with that stuff. It doesn't feel like any other one I play where you have to like, oh crap, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of bananas this turn.
That is it in a nutshell. It's streamlined. It is, as I say, sublimely elegant.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other big thing that it has over a lot of trading games is you can actually get things on other people's turns, depending on the actions they take.
Yeah, which is amazing and awesome. And a big strategy in the game, too, to follow people around sometimes. So now to go to Peter's super awesome number 2 that no one will disclaimer.
All right, so number 2 for me, we're going to visit the world of Dune in Frank Herbert's universe. I love asymmetrical powers in games, and this one takes a book to board game and does it incredibly well. Each of the different factions does a great job of leaning into the factions from the book, and the way that they get played fits so well into the way that they're described in the book. And now this is one I'm going to caveat it. It says 2 to 6 players. You want 5-6 players at this game. You do not want to play it I've played it with 3. I don't think I've ever tried playing it with 2. I wouldn't. You want 5 or 6 players playing this game. The more the merrier. If you want to see a fun playthrough of it, we have played through it on Tabletop Simulator, and it is on the YouTube channel. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time playing with all of you guys. Getting to see all of the factions doing their thing and going after each other. It's just a lot of fun. There's combat on the board. There's area control happening. There's the combat with the cards. The way that plays out is a lot of fun and interesting. The ability for there to be the possibility that somebody might have one of your cards, and all of a sudden you think you're going to play a really good leader, but then you find out that it's a traitor and you don't get to use it. There was just a lot of stuff in the game, strategy-wise and thematic-wise, that I feel like I can't believe they went so long before finally reissuing this game. I can't believe that it took that long. I understand there was a whole lot of issues there. I consider myself to be very lucky that I was getting into board games when this game was reissued, because I'm just glad that I don't have to. I wasn't waiting for this game to be reissued. It got released at the right time for me, and I've enjoyed playing it quite a bit. But again, caveat: I need my whole party to be together to play this one. I'm not going to play it with anything, I don't think, under 5 or 6 ever again, just because getting all of those factions working and vying against each other is pivotal to this game. But I think when you do get all of those those players together, this game really, really shines. So Dune, number 2 for me.
Darn you, I wanted to pick on you and I can't. It's an excellent game, awesome game. You're right.
Yeah.
5 to 6 players is 100% needed.
It cannot. I don't think Dune will ever be able to get to number 1 for me because of that.
Because of that. Yeah. It is an awesome game, though. I love it a lot. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'd say I played this with 4. It's a good game. It works with 4, but it isn't. At 5 or 6, it's an excellent game. I have not played this quite enough to really get it into my top 10 yet. It could get there eventually. But one of the things that kind of surprised me is it seems like now that the cat's out of the bag, Dune is everywhere. I know there's Dune Imperium that's coming out, actually just came out, and Portal just announced a Dune game as well. I think there's one other, but I'm not sure.
There's multiple reasons, but it was completely unreprintable legally.
Yeah,
right.
Until recently. Which gets to another IP, just as a segue, not to what I'm talking about, but just I wanted to bring up is I like the Dune IP, but I also like the Wheel of Time IP. And that, because of how things just changed, there'll be board games for that now. So I'm super excited about that coming up.
And this is the first time I'm hearing of it, and I also am excited by that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. They also have that series coming out.
Yep.
Sometime.
Yep.
It'll be awesome.
The TV series will be coming out. It'll be good stuff.
It'll be awesome stuff. So, yeah, awesome pick, Dune. All right, so my number 2 is an awesome game that, again, I find myself getting farther and farther away from Euro games for some reason and getting more into thematic games because I really enjoy the player interaction. I really enjoy the stories that get created by playing these games. I enjoy the experience. And one of the games that I enjoy the experience the most from, especially with playing with other players, especially people that haven't played it before, is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. I love this game. I have almost everything for it except for one out-of-print expansion, which is driving me nuts. But eventually I'll get it and I'll have a complete collection. It has replaying scenarios for it. Is not a problem because they're awesome. I think I have like 20 scenarios at this point for the game. And what's cool is each scenario can be drastically different. One, you're going along in a train and it feels like you're actually moving the train because the train actually moves along. You can unpin, what are they called?
Cars.
Cabins or whatever. And they go away and you have train tracks in there. You can play on a ship and the ship is moving and water's coming over the ship. It's just amazing on what they can do with an app-driven game and a lot of components. So many components. This is one of the 2 games that I had that had to have an organizer, and I finally got one, and I'm super happy because that game, so much junk, and it's everywhere. Later on, I'm going to tell you about a game that you have to have it in sort of, I think it's unplayable. But for right now, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, thematic Cthulhu-esque world, H.P. Lovecraft, amazing, highly recommend it. It's just an amazing experience, and that is Mansions of Madness.
I look forward to getting to play this game more and watch it go up my top 10 list.
Yes. I'm looking forward to playing it with you.
Yes, I can't wait.
And watching you have fun and enjoying it.
That only leaves one possible game left for your number 1. But so basically, I got 9 out of 10. You're correct, but I didn't get a single one in the right position.
That's okay. That's okay. I really do think some of the games are not leaving my list. Probably, I don't think next year. But I think some of them are coming on, like more than normal. My list generally stays about the same. That's why Nathan guessed it all, if you know me at all. That much. My stuff doesn't change. I talk about them every podcast all the time, and I force them to hear about it every episode. Because why? Because I can't.
And the difference between 1 and 10, at least for me, is so minute. These are phenomenal games. So it's really hard to get it, like, figure out the exact placement. Actually, 1 and 20, there is not much difference.
I am interested to see what your number 1 game is.
I think you already know.
I do, but I want you to say it.
My number 1 has already been mentioned by 2 people. Yes, 2 people. And that's Mansions of Madness. Since it's already been talked about so much, I don't think I need to mention anymore. It's a great game. Play it. Just play it now. Stop the podcast right now and play this game. No, don't stop the podcast. Just keep listening. You might actually care what Dan has to say about his.
Potentially, maybe. So what's Dan's number 1?
All right. Well, my number 1 game on my list is a game that uses multi-use cards. It is an engine-building game. It is not the game that James is thinking of. It is 51st State The Master Set is the game that I'm actually going to be picking. It would be that other game, except that didn't get played that often this past year. But, like, I played 51st Master State a ton this past year and a half-ish, trying trying to develop a different way to run the solo bot that comes from the bot. I haven't managed to succeed for that, but I got a lot of plays in solo, which is why it rose to the top of the list. It's also one of my favorites. But in 51st State, you are a faction that exists in post-apocalyptic America, and you're trying to build a tableau of cards that represents your empire, and you go out making deals with minor factions and raiding minor factions and other players to get resources and turn them into basically more cards, and it just slowly builds itself over the game and has some pretty cool combo building capabilities to it.
This is another game that I really sad that I missed out playing with you guys, which we have a playthrough of it that I'm sadly not in, or I would have won.
Yeah, James hasn't played this game yet. Wow.
No, I have not.
Wow.
I think a lot of playthroughs get spawned from this episode. So what is Peter's number one?
All right, everybody, join me for Ragnarok as I play Blood Rage again and again and again. The digital version being again released at the right time for me because I have yet to play this game at a physical table with all the miniatures, and I am dying to because I absolutely love this game. Yeah, there was some bumps and bruises with the digital version at the beginning, but at this point I think they've got most of all the bugs worked out of it. It's very well done. Not too bad again getting multiple players to play at the same table. But the card drafting, the figuring out the multiple different strategies that you can take while playing this game, just for me is a lot of fun. I like beating up games. I like where you're fighting other people, and I think it's really fun that this game has a mechanic where you might want to be the one getting beat up and dying and sending all your dudes to Valhalla. I think that's hilarious that you want to lose. Just the different strategies that can happen in the game and trying to learn them so that whenever the cards come in your hand, you know what strategy you're going to take because of the cards you just got, but then all of a sudden you get another card and you're like, crap, but I really want to do the other strategy because I'm better at that one than I am at this one. But it's just, it's knowing what cards you get and what is the best strategy to play with that, and then having your strategy blow up in your face because you're playing James and he's too good at this game. But it's still a lot of fun to play, and as soon as everything is back to somewhat semblance of normal, I am going to play this game with James in person. It's going to be a blast.
Don't forget that you're going to whoop his ass.
I am going to do my darndest. I'm getting really good high scores when I play against the AI, but as soon as I play against like somebody else, I see my strategy fall apart. So I gotta get more games. I feel like I've played it enough now that I know the different strategies. I just have to play it against actual people so that I can learn how to play against somebody else who's really playing a strategy hard, because the AI can only be so good. But I do love this game.
I'll say Nathan's my bane because he hate drafts me because he knows what I'm going to do.
And I try to hate draft Nathan and I just can't pull it off. He's still he still just does too good at the end. Yeah.
See, you guys, you could do 3 different strategies. You can reverse between them. So it's once you play it like a zillion times, you get used to it, and you can just throttle someone.
I haven't logged all of my plays of this game. I have to be getting probably close to somewhere around 30 or 40 playthroughs, I think, at this point, because I just will randomly sit down at my computer and pull up the digital version and play through a game, because it plays through fairly quick, and so I can easily just sit down and play 1 or 2 games of this at the drop of a hat. It'll obviously be different when I'm sitting down and trying to put all the pieces together on a physical board, but I do really, really enjoy this game.
So next time all 4 of us play, Peter will just crush us, and I'll be like, I don't know what happened.
It'll be fantastic. I will love it.
It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, it won't be me, I guarantee it. Yeah.
No. Because that's would be your first time playing, right?
I mean, I have access to the digital app, but I've only been in there a couple times to start familiarizing myself with the cards and start failing against the AI. So
I've said it before, but we really have to get somebody to GIF James's reaction every time the word blood rage is spoken. And then put it on the internet. So every time anybody in the world says blood rage, you see a little GIF of him going,
The closest thing you can get to it with a current GIF is throw up Kermit arms. It's as close as you're going to get.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty close, actually. Pretty close.
Not lying.
So my final and number one game, and also rated number one game in the world by Board Game Geek, is the legacy game, Cliffhanger, which is the quintessential epic dungeon crawl. I will say that without an organizer of some sort, this game is a monster to set up. There is like 20 pounds of cardboard that is small, that there is no way that you're going to baggy. I did baggy them, but there's no way you're going to baggy them and then find stuff. It has to have an organizer in order to effectively go through the game in a reasonable amount of time and find stuff. So that's the one negative I have against it, but it's still my number one. It is an amazing game. I love the card system. I like the card shedding system. I like the choices that you have to make in the game. I like leveling up the characters. I like getting all the cool things. It feels like a epic video game in a board game because you're getting achievements, you're leveling up your characters, you're doing all this really cool, epic, fun stuff. You're having random events occurring when you're traveling. It's just amazing. Amazing game. It's well worth the 100-some odd bucks it costs to buy it. Also, it doubles as a weightlifting kit. So if you need to exercise, you can also use it as a bench press. And then when you're done exercising, it is also a board game. So it is just in general, the exercise plus the board game portion makes it like a must-have game.
I'm sorry, I've not seen too many people who play Gloomhaven who are ripped. That's all I can say. They're not picking up on this exercising side of the game.
And I think it's been surpassed. It's been replaced as an exercise equipment by Anachrony.
I don't have Anachrony, so I'll just take your word for it. But, the other thing with Anachrony is it's like a 4-foot tall stack. This is a small game of solid cardboard. It's just like, it's like lifting a log at that point. But, so that was all 4 of our top 10s. In the future, we're going to do another episode. We're going to talk about the games that didn't make our list, the games that got knocked off our list. And since this is Peter's first time, he'll have the luxury of just making fun of us.
It will be fantastic.
It'll be
fantastic. Yeah, top 10, guys. I made a top 10.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. That was our top 10.